All right, everybody, thanks for joining in. This is going to be it's not going to be, it is a special episode we're doing. This one's going to come out. We're recording this on Sunday, March 29th, and I think this will probably come out sometime the first week of April. It's going to be a special episode to kind of help you folks that are in lockdown. So if you're listening to this in 2021 or 2022, this is all part of, we're recording this kind of just to help people get through, depending on what state you're in. It's probably called something different. Here in Wisconsin, it's called Safer at Home. But we're doing a special pandemic episode, and what better topic to cover during a world pandemic than some sort of crisis type movie. And since how we're all in quarantine, it's even more fitting that we are talking about 2008's Quarantine.
Did you remember this movie when it came out? Do you remember like seeing trailers for it and all that kind of thing?
I don't necessarily remember seeing trailers for it when it came out, like in the theaters, but I do remember seeing this a long time ago, probably on, I don't know if I would have rented it via Netflix, like when Netflix used to send DVDs in the mail, but I've seen this more than once.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because this one is like, wasn't there like a whole group of movies that came out around this time that were all sort of like the found footage, first person video camera type films? And I mean, just to throw a few out there, wasn't there like even one of the George A. Romero Dead movies was one of them, right?
I don't remember that one, but I know there was like the Quarantine and what was it?
Wreck.
Like Wreck. Yeah, that
Wreck.
was the one I was thinking of too. I've never actually, because the Wreck movies, I think there's like 3 or 4 of those, and I've never seen any of those.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen them. I might have seen one of them, but I don't think I did. This was like back when those, like, yeah, the, would you categorize, this isn't really found footage, is it? This is more.
Well, technically, I think it is.
Is it?
It's probably supposed to be found footage. Because, well, I mean, spoiler alert, everybody dies.
Well, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And it would be like, but
yeah.
you're not, it's not like the same where, or like, you know, goes back to like Blair Witch, where they kind of give you this sense that, oh, this is, you know, here's what we found and this is what you're going to watch and that kind of thing.
Right.
Whereas this one doesn't really have that. It just kind of, you're in the story and it's from the first person's, it's like a mockumentary in a way.
Right, yeah. And this was all the rage back in the 2000s, because you had, well, the Wreck movies like we talked about, but you also had like all of the Paranormal Activity movies.
Yeah, right.
And I don't remember, do you remember before the first Paranormal Activity movie, was that kind of similar to the Blair Witch Project, where you were kind of led to believe that this was like recovered from?
Oh, like a true story?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with no on that. I don't think it was ever marketed that way.
Okay. No, I don't necessarily mean marketed, but I mean when you watch the movie.
Oh, like, oh, this was fun. I don't think so.
Okay. I don't remember. I haven't seen that one for a while.
Okay.
But yeah.
I think the only 2 that I can think of that were marketed, like off the top of my head, that were, or not necessarily will give you the impression like, hey, these were real stories, were the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Blair Witch. They had that kind of whole thing where you're like, oh, this is real. This really happened kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because this one, yeah, you're not really, I mean, it has that found footage feel to it. And I think if you look it up, or if you were, I guess there probably is a found footage like subgenre of
there is.
horror.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, I would imagine this probably falls into that.
Mm-hmm.
But,
and actually the Friday the 13th movie that they've been, well, originally like that they were going to follow up the remake with was going to be a found footage film.
Oh, like
And
Halloween Resurrection?
right, yeah, kind of they were going to go that route, and because it was really the rage at this time, which
Oh,
was
man.
strange that how long ago that was, like 12 years ago. Can you believe that? How long ago that we're talking? That's unbelievable.
But I do have to admit that some of them are like me and my kids were talking about this the other day because I was talking about this one when we were doing it for the show. And for those of you who aren't aware, we actually did a poll on our Facebook page for which quarantine movie we should do, or not, I shouldn't say quarantine movie, but which crisis type of movie, pandemic themed movie we should do. And it was Quarantine and 28 Days Later were the two, because evidently Facebook only allows you to put two in a poll, which I thought was kind of dumb. Because I had like 6 movies I was going to throw out there. So maybe we'll do this again. I mean, we're going to be in quarantine for a while, so. But anyway, when this one officially won the other day, I mentioned it to my wife and kids. I was like, oh, it looks like we're doing Quarantine. And my one of my daughters had asked that same question. They were like, isn't that like a found footage movie? And I'm like, yeah, it is. And then they were like, did those ever scare you? And then I was telling the story, which I told when we did Blair Witch, or the Blair Witch Project a couple of years ago, that when that movie first came out, the first one, and the way that it was marketed and stuff, I was one of the ones that kind of went into it thinking like, oh shit, this is real. And like creeped me out. And then like when you revisit it and you know it's not real, you're like, ugh. Well, that's kind of dumb. But we were talking about other movies that had like creep factor for like the found footage movies. And I have to admit, man, the original, like not the original, I mean, it is the original, but the first Paranormal Activity movie, to me, I thought that was a great movie the first time I saw it. But again, it's one of those movies that like is very effective. Like when you're going into it and you don't know what's going to happen, you're like, oh, Jesus Christ, that's freaking scary. But then when you go back and revisit it, and you're like, oh, this is kind of lame because I already know what's going to happen. So, I mean,
Yeah, I thought the first one was pretty effective too. I don't think I might have seen the second one. I don't think I saw very many of them, but you know, it has a few of those moments where you're like, whoa, that was pretty good. And it kind of, you know, at the time it was sort of fresh and
yep,
new.
yep.
But this one, Quarantine, you know, I think I saw Wreck. I'm not sure, but it also kind of brings me back to like Cloverfield, even to a degree.
Oh yeah, yep.
Another one that like this kind of found footage, first person thing with a mockumentary or whatever. And I don't know about you, but I'm not like a big fan of this style of filmmaking. And I think it was, I mean, I thought it was pretty cool as like with the original Blair Witch Project when they did it. It had like kind of a cool novelty to it just because it technically wasn't the first time they've done something like this. You could go back into like the 70s and 80s with those cannibal movies, and that was pretty much the same kind of thing, like a mockumentary.
Oh, yep.
But for whatever reason, this one, Blair Witch always kind of stuck out. And the funny thing about Blair Witch, kind of like what you said, it was like the first time you went and saw it, there was something kind of cool about it, but it's never something that you'd ever want to go back and watch because once you realize that it's BS, because it's just like, okay, yeah, whatever.
Right.
And then and so I personally am not a fan of this type of film. I'm not a big found footage person.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing with the found footage movies that bug me is because a lot of times what it is, like in the Paranormal Activity movie, you know, like one of the things is like this guy's like, hey, look at this real fancy camera I just bought and stuff. And then like this is, like in this movie, it's a news crew or whatever the hell they are going out and doing this thing. But all I keep thinking of is, I mean, granted, I know that these movies are, well, now, like this movie came out in 2008, so 12 years old. But like nowadays, you can buy a Steadicam kind of holster thing for like your GoPro or even your phone, you know, for like YouTubing and stuff. So that's always my biggest thing with the found footage stuff is the shitty, shaky camera work. Because you're like, there's like different times where you're like, oh god, I'm gonna get sick.
Yeah.
Just watching it because I don't remember what movie. Well, I do. What was it? Doctor Blood of
Blood
Island or whatever it was. Doctor Strange of Blood Island or whatever.
Yeah, one of those Blood Island films.
Where they had the weird like zoom in, zoom out, zoom in, zoom out thing, and we're like, oh, what the hell is that? But there's a couple of scenes in this movie in particular where you're like, wow, will you stop? And the other thing with, again, because this movie is 12 years old and going back and revisiting it now, is one of the other things that kind of takes away from this kind of being like that, like a found footage type movie, is there is a couple of faces in this movie that, while you probably didn't know them in 2008, now that it's 2020, there are a couple of people you're like, oh, hey, I know that guy. You had like the one guy that was like the drunk. He's been on, I think, every season of American Horror Story. And then the guy that was the vet, I don't know where else I've seen him before, but, I was like, oh, I've seen that guy before in some stuff.
Like TV shows. And
yeah.
Wasn't he like Ally McBeal? Do you remember that show?
Oh, you know what? Maybe that's exactly right. Yeah, so that would have been way before 2008. So
yeah, that would have been like 90s.
So yeah, that kind of takes away when you have recognizable faces in your mockumentary kind of thing, and you're like, oh, I know that guy. Right. Because that goes back to like the Blair Witch and what we're talking about with Paranormal Activity and stuff. Is I know that the people from like what was her name, Heather from Paranormal Activity, like she did a couple of like small things, but you've never seen her really in anything ever since. And then like the actress that was in Paranormal Activity, I can't remember her name at all, but she was not really in anything like even since, which I mean probably kind of sucks for her because she's probably whatever, bagging groceries or working for a software company somewhere or something, but
right.
But I don't know. That's just me. But
yeah, no, it works better if you're going to do that type of film, that you got to get people that are sort of like, up and coming or new names or whatever. Kind of like, going back to even like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, when they did that one, all of those people were just local actors. And so there were no, I think that's another reason why it's so effective. It's like, it wasn't like, somebody you'd recognize at all. And they can kind of throw in that whole disclaimer that, oh, this is based on a true story, blah, blah, blah. And then throw those people in there. You're like, yeah, I've never seen those people before in a movie before.
Yeah, and exactly. And that's exactly my point too, is because that movie is what, are you ready for this? What, 46 years old?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Crazy, huh?
And, I mean, you never saw them. And so us, being whatever, the first time that we saw it, that movie was whatever, man, how old was I? I was like probably 13, I guess. So that movie was already 15 years old.
Yeah.
And, yet, I didn't recognize any of them and still really haven't seen any of them in anything else outside of other.
Well, yeah, I don't think they've really done anything else.
I mean, they were in other Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, but.
Well, Gunnar Hansen did. He came back for the last Chainsaw real quickly, just in a what do you call a cameo. And then what's her name? The girl who played Sally. She did another Tobe Hooper film, Eaten Alive, with Robert Englund. Actually, was in that one. And after that, I think she kind of disappeared too. It's like none of these people really had much of a career after that movie.
Yeah, it's so weird.
It is weird.
But yeah, it makes for this type of movie, it makes it for real. It adds a little bit of effectiveness to it when you can watch it and you're not taken out by like, oh, hey, I know that guy from 18 other things. To whereas, like, oh, this is a found footage movie. This is so cool.
Another thing with this film, too, I want to address is this was around the time, I believe, where the zombie thing was just kind of exploding. What was it? This is around the time like Walking Dead.
Oh yeah, yep.
It was just like everywhere you looked, it was zombies. And I mean, literally, was the zombie phase of the 2000s bigger than the zombie phase of back when like Night of the Living Dead and all those films started to kind of come out of the woodwork? Because it really seemed like we went through a phase of where everybody was like, it was video games, movies, and everything was zombies. It was like you couldn't get away from it. And it's like, to me, I've never been a big zombie fan, and this film is pretty much, basically a zombie film. I mean, give or take. I mean, yeah, they're more like the Resident Evil type of zombie or like the 28 Days Later type of zombie, where like an infection and kind of thing. But that's what this really is. It's like a found footage zombie film at the end of the day.
Well, I think the big difference between when Night of the Living Dead came out and then you had all of those B-type zombie movies and the 2000 zombie craze, because you also had, not only did you have the zombie craze, but you also had the like vampire werewolf like romanticized phase as well with True Blood and stuff.
Right.
But I think the big difference between then and now is back in the 60s and stuff, that was all B stuff, and now it's like real mainstream.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It definitely became mainstream. I mean, in such a big way too, where it like really inundated all the video games too.
Yep.
But
and you have to, the other thing too, like, I mean, you had Twilight with the vampire stuff, and then they had like some weird werewolf shit in there, which I don't care who you are or what you say. The freaking things in Twilight, okay, whatever. They can be vampires, that's fine. You can have the sparkly shit, whatever. Those aren't freaking werewolves, man. Werewolves don't turn into dogs. Those are shapeshifters.
Right. Well, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, there was there was like a romantic like rom-com like horror thing. What was it? Like Warm Bodies or something? Where it was like a teeny boppy, like, oh, my boyfriend's a zombie, kind of a cutesy, stupid thing. Anyway, I don't know, whatever you're going to say. Sorry for interrupting you.
Oh, no, that's all. I was just saying, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this is a zombie film. It's a group of people. What is it? Basically, like, this reporter goes with these firefighters. She ends up in this building. They're like, they find this old woman who's infected. She's become a zombie, and they eventually quarantine this whole building that they're in, and that's like kind of one thing leads to the other, and it's kind of like a survivalist zombie film at the end of the day.
Yeah, they reveal about 3/4 through the movie that this building is infected with some sort of like super strain of rabies. So rather than it taking months and months to develop, it takes like hours.
And that's connected to that dog. There's like a dog that's loose with this little girl. I thought the dog scene, that scene where the dog attacks the guy in the elevator, that was pretty effective. That was pretty creepy. But at the end of the day, I'll be honest with you, I'm not a big found footage guy. I'm not a zombie guy. So this type of film does not like resonate well with me. Even like, I guess like if you were to ask me what's your favorite zombie movie of all time, I think I've said it before on the show. I'll go with the original Night of the Living Dead, because it was black and white. It's creepy. It's just like, the people stuck in a farmhouse. But even that one, like, again, like I'd rather watch a slasher film or something else other than a zombie film. But so that would probably be my favorite zombie film. But the whole like you said, like the shaky camera and like the whole, you got to buy that somebody's always holding the camera and they're always going to be like, and then the one scene too, like where the girl there was the other woman that gets infected and she keeps hitting her head up against the camera.
Oh yeah.
It's like stuff like that. It's so like they need something like that to keep the movie going. but at the same time, you have, as the audience, you have to buy that that's really happening. If there's really somebody holding that camera while that's happening.
There was a couple of pretty good scenes in the movie. Like you had that, like you were saying with the dog. The couple of kills the guy had with the sledgehammer I thought were pretty good.
Yeah. Okay.
Kind of brutal.
I can see that, yeah.
And then you had like the one guy, the one firefighter guy that was just like a total dick at the beginning of the movie, where his leg was like completely busted.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like walking around on his like broken leg and
gross.
his bones are sticking out. Yeah, exactly. You're like, oh God, what the? Don't show that. That's disgusting. Not only did you have like a lot of the movie, like you're trying to figure out like what the hell's going on? What the hell's going on? Then all of a sudden they're just kind of like, oh, it's rabies. Here, we're going to stuff this down your throat. But my favorite thing in this movie is the power is out. So the CDC comes in, they shut down the building, they quarantine the building, nobody can leave the building. And there's like all these like back passages and stuff supposedly throughout the building, different apartments or whatever. But they cut the power to the building, but somehow the elevator is still working.
Ah, that makes, yeah, that is
like,
weird.
What? How does that work?
Sure. Huh, that is weird.
I know, that was one of those things where like, you're just kind of like, all right, I guess I can't really.
You just got to suspend your disbelief for a little bit for that one. Yeah, no
right.
kidding.
Oh, but yeah, that dog scene, man. That
was
one's
pretty
kind of
intense.
Yeah, that's kind of brutal.
I think that's one of my biggest fears is like being attacked by a wild animal. So it's like the idea of like being stuck in an elevator with this vicious dog. You know, it's just like that's creepy.
Well, I don't think you have to worry about that with your dog because you'd probably hear him coming for one thing, and I don't think he could jump up and attack you.
And he's deaf too, so that helps.
Yeah,
you can sneak behind him.
85 years old, but. Well, I do have to say, though, the one thing I will say with this is, I mean, this movie has a ton of flaws, but when you are in lockdown for a month and a half, however long it's going to be, 2 months, and you're looking for something stupid to watch that has something to deal with quarantine stuff, I'll have to admit, this is a movie you can throw on, get a nice big bowl of popcorn, some shitty beer. You know, it's a stupid movie, but I think, at least for me, there's enough like parts of the movie where you're like, all right, that was an effective scene. That's kind of gory. That grossed me out. So I have to say, at the end of the day, I'm not going to give it a giant thumbs up, but I will give it slightly more of a thumbs up than a thumbs down.
Okay.
So I'm going to go with that.
Well, I'm going to have to go the other way. I'm going to give this one a big thumbs down. And the reason being, I mean, well, and I'll have to say, beginning with it, I am not a fan of found footage films. I'm also not a big zombie film. And I didn't feel that this movie brought anything new to the table that was entertaining. It was all kind of the same rehashed stuff that was going on at this time period. And, you know, here I am like a Friday the 13th fan, and like, what is that? Nothing but a rehashed thing. But so, you know, there is some hypocrisy there, but at the same time, this is just not the movie for me. So I didn't enjoy it enough to pop popcorn, and there wasn't enough beer to call it a beer and popcorn film for me. So I'm just going to go ahead and say thumbs down. Sorry.